All right, it's time for 6 players you should be buying low in Dynasty Fantasy Football. As the season has gotten into full swing now, there are players that have plummeted in value, some of them for absolutely no reason, so we're going to look at them today. Starting with Jaxon Smith-Njigba. You knew we were going to have JSN on this video if you watch any of our videos from the summer. Huge fans of JSN. Honestly, our bold prediction was that we thought he would come in and be the lead receiver there. He really hasn't been. I mean, when you look at JSN, he's gotten some targets, but for the most part, he's still developing. He's still finding his role in that offense, but there are some things to point out. First of all, we do think JSN is probably the best buy in Dynasty formats right now because he has slid a lot and he has a great profile. He's plummeted from the wide receiver 10 to the wide receiver 21 on keep, trade, cut. You're talking about a drop just because the guy is a rookie that comes in the league, is behind 2 pretty much Pro Bowl caliber receivers, and isn't producing right away.
Yeah, and this is something where some people may say that we were wrong on this, and that's okay. You can say that because we kind of expected JSN to show out a bit sooner than this, not like right off the bat. We said
by now
he may he may not be the third option by the end of the year. I'll still stand by that. I think when you get to the second half of this season, I really think that JSN is just going to continue to grow into the role that they drafted him for in the first round, which is to be that eventual dominant wide receiver 1. DK doesn't take away from JSN. DK is a very complementary piece, a complementary 2 for JSN's 1 skill set. And really the biggest problem here is Tyler Lockett. And we knew that Lockett would be the issue to begin the season. We weren't sure how long that would last. It's a lot of patience here. You got to wait and see. And if you were investing in JSN this season anyways, you were probably on the rebuild side. So don't be in a hurry to sell JSN at all, especially if you're a rebuild. If you're a contender, if you're a contender, it's a tough situation to be in because some contenders were drafting Jaxon Smith-Njigba, expecting him to produce.
Including me.
Yeah, and
I'm not selling him. I'm not selling him on any type of team right now.
No.
I mean, there's a very low chance that Tyler Lockett's actually even in Seattle next year, right? So, Look, JSN, 3rd in the entire league in target separation so far this year. 3rd overall.
So him as a talent, that is not in question.
It's not that he's not open.
All. His inability to translate to the NFL, that's not a thing. You can ignore that. Fantasy points don't directly correlate to lack of talent. 3rd in the NFL.
3rd in target separation, 52nd in targets.
Yeah, so it's really just the opportunity. And it is what it is, man. I mean, it sucks that Puka Nacua and JSN didn't swap roles. Like, that would have been really nice because if JSN had the same amount of volume that Puka had, or heck, even Josh Downs is getting right now, Tank Dell, then he would be probably a top 6 dynasty wide receiver at this point. It is what it is. And I think at this point, you have to continue to trust his talent profile and the draft capital that he has because, I mean, he's going to get this volume at some point.
And it's going to be very hard for him to continue to decrease in value, so he's a great buy low right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Next guy we're going to have here, actually 2 guys. You can kind of pair them together. They're both quarterbacks, Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. People are legitimately selling elite caliber quarterbacks at a discount in a Superflex league after 5 weeks of fantasy football.
I've seen it in multiple leagues.
Guys, this is ridiculous. Okay, we need to chill out.
This is an intervention.
I have seen so many people, so many media people and YouTubers and whatever that are legitimately completely writing off the Cincinnati Bengals from even making the playoffs. What are you smoking, dude? Like they were 2-4 last year, and then they made the playoffs. The Jaguars last season, 2-6, and they made the playoffs, won their division. And they are by far a better team and a better roster this season, more talented.
Yes.
This is what happens in the NFL, guys. Teams start slow. And the better teams, the more talented teams show out towards the end of the season, the second half of the season, while the ones that aren't as talented, for the most part, usually don't start very well. That's just how it is in football. And it's because the margin, the difference between good and bad is very, very small. With Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence, not only as NFL talents and quarterbacks, but as fantasy assets, there is zero reason you should be selling them at a discount at all. These guys have well, Lawrence doesn't have yet. He's going to have a mega contract soon. Joe Burrow just got paid $270 million. And we're selling him at a discount with that contract? playing on a bad calf, that's not cool. That's not acceptable. We can't be doing that in Dynasty. That's way too reactive.
This is a good move for any type of team, right? If you're contending and you can get Joe Burrow, hooray. If you are rebuilding and you can get Joe Burrow, hooray.
Hurrah.
It's good for everybody. Send a feeler out today for either of those two quarterbacks.
Yeah.
If you're getting them at any discount compared to what they were going for in the offseason, aka top 7 Dynasty picks, you are buying them. Why? Joe Burrow is the QB8 on Keep Trade Cut. Why? No, don't do this, guys. Again, if you are one of those people who is lower on these guys than you were before the season, we urge you to not be.
Patience.
Be patient.
Be patient.
And be smart. Be disciplined and buy these guys. These are great buys right now in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Drake London is going to be a great buy for us as well. He's gone from the wide receiver 9 on Keep Trade Cut to the wide receiver 22. And this one makes sense. You're looking at Drake London. He is in an Arthur Smith system that has not been historically kind to fantasy wide receivers. So this kind of makes sense. And his quarterback is Desmond Ridder. It's making it hard for him to produce right now. Desmond Ridder is not going to be his quarterback forever. Desmond Ridder might not be his quarterback for the rest of the year, actually. But even beyond this year, I think they're going to be looking for something better than Desmond Ridder. And can you really blame them for that? I don't think we can. Drake London, here are the facts. Drake London is an extremely talented wide receiver. Drake London is still producing in fantasy, given the circumstances, and he has top 10 draft capital. So when you add all those factors up, this is screaming buy to me. This is not a career low-end wide receiver 2, guys. This is a guy with wide receiver 1 upside. He absolutely has that ceiling. Right now, situationally, yes, it's bad. But Drake London, do not forget, is 22 years old. He is not old. He came in very young. He was an early declare. Again, he got drafted in the top 10. I mean, look, see past this year in Dynasty. That is the key here. That's going to be the key with a lot of these guys. In Dynasty Fantasy Football, one of the main strategy implications that you can take on, see past this year. This year, yes, Drake London situation, not good. Past this year, we don't know. And Drake London's only going to get better as a receiver. His situation is only going to get better. He's only going to get more experience. And Kyle Pitts is only going to get worse.
Yeah, and I'm very sympathetic to those of you who are incredibly low on Drake London. I understand, and I really think Drake London has ultimately been a product of what we like to call the Terry McLaurin or the DJ Moore effect, and that is they can be incredible wide receivers in the NFL, but when you're talking about fantasy football, they're just overvalued. Our thing with Drake London right now is that he's not overvalued. When you look back historically with DJ Moore, with the Terry McLaurins, and even Michael Pittman's of their time, they were being valued as low end to mid wide receiver 1s in Dynasty and being drafted at that price. Drake London, we started flirting with that idea with Drake London last season, and we assumed that he would transcend the situation in Atlanta. He, through the first 5 weeks this season, has not really. He'll probably finish as a low-end wide receiver too, but that's where his price is. And we know, like Avery already said, his ceiling is going to be higher than that, so the price is right at wide receiver 22. I was scared of Drake London. I'll be completely honest. I was scared of Drake London going into this year, which is why I ended up with no shares of him at price. I hated the situation. And honestly, with as good as the Falcons are, like very well coached, and the fact that they're in a horrible division and may end up winning their division, they could be stuck with a Desmond Ridder caliber quarterback for a while. And there is room for concern there with Drake London and Kyle Pitts and any wide receiver on that team, etc. But I think at the price that Drake London is currently at, you have to be capitalizing on that opportunity.
Next guy here is also very talented. It's going to be Quentin Johnston. Now, Quentin Johnston is a guy that when we were in the pre-draft process and even in the post-draft process, we say about Quentin Johnston, what was like the number one thing we said about him?
He's not going to have a good first year.
He's raw. We're like, yeah, this guy, he's got all the physical tools. He's super athletic. He's like a 6'3", but he can do anything. But he's super raw from a skill set standpoint. Yeah. And so then he gets drafted. He gets drafted in the first round. Why? Because, again, he's very talented. He's very athletic. But then somebody who's raw comes in and doesn't produce right away, which I guess a lot of people didn't see that coming. But this was always going to be the case for Quentin Johnston. I mean, they drafted him to be learning underneath and developing under Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. They
He's
also
like a hybrid of those two, honestly.
He is. And they honestly also drafted him because the Chargers are not dumb, and they knew that one of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen would probably get hurt this season, or both, like last season, because it happens pretty much every year with those guys. And so now Quentin Johnston, you see him, now he gets his chance, and Mike Williams is out, and here he comes. He's coming onto the field, and it's coming down, and then he's not doing anything. And people are like, Quentin Johnston sucks. And so they're just selling him. And again, I don't understand. He was a first round wide receiver, guys. He was a first round wide receiver last year. He absolutely will flash at some point. Somebody of that athletic capability, somebody of that skill set does not just not flash. He's going to flash, even if it's not this year. But because of that, because he's going to flash, because it has not come yet, that's pretty much a screaming buy for us. I mean, when you have somebody that you know is going to increase in value eventually, why not add them to your team? Quentin Johnston, if you're a rebuild, is a perfect trade target. I think that Quentin Johnston next year will have a lot better year than he is this year. I even think there's a small chance, I'm not banking on this, I think there's a small chance that Quentin Johnston does actually flash slightly at the end of his rookie year, given how much the Chargers are going to be throwing the ball, given that they're going to be a playoff team, given that they're going to be playing from behind pretty much every game because their defense is terrible. I think there's a chance that Quentin Johnston flashes sooner than we think.
Oh, yeah, he totally could. I mean, Christian Watson did it last season. Treylon Burks did it at the end of last season. And I think this is honestly kind of a similar concept to Treylon Burks when we're talking about value insulation. Treylon Burks didn't do very much at all his rookie year. He flashed, he did, but he struggled with injury, and he still maintains his value going into 2023, his second year. Quentin Johnston is literally like from a raw development perspective, kind of the same thing as Treylon Burks, but in a better situation and not struggling with injuries all the freaking time. I think Quentin Johnston has to maintain value next season. I'm like, right?
Rookie wide receiver, baby.
Am I crazy for thinking that?
No, you're intelligent.
Actually. Okay. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Saquon Barkley is going to be our last guy here, and I know it's scary to invest in any running back that is older than 24 years old. But with Saquon, running back 10 on keep trade cut right now, took a massive hit because of the injury. He's struggling with that ankle injury, and I think they're playing it safe, honestly, at this point. The Giants, what do they even have to play for anymore at this point? I mean, talk about a team that you can accuse me for overreacting about the Giants. I am writing them off for making the playoffs. They look legit like the second worst team in the NFL right now.
And Nathan's always been a really big Daniel Jones fan, too, so that means a lot.
That's hilarious. His new contract is going to come this offseason, whether it's with the Giants or with someone else. It is Saquon Barkley we're talking about. And yes, the name does matter quite a bit here. You're talking about an second overall pick in the NFL draft that some team is going to want to pay for. Some team will, with that talent. And honestly, with some of the injuries he struggled from, it's kind of protected him from having a ton of workload wear and tear.
Yeah.
I think he has a lot of miles left. I really do. And some people will say, well, he's injury prone, because we love to throw that around. I don't like that, because you're looking at Saquon getting a deal somewhere else. Think about like DeAndre Swift going from the Lions to the Eagles. You put him in a way better situation and his talent shows out, and he doesn't ever look like he hasn't looked banged up yet. Granted, it's only been 5 weeks, but I mean, he looks way better.
He's been as consistent as he's ever been.
Saquon Barkley is the focal point in the Giants offense, and that results in him being the defensive focal point as well. He takes a lot of punishment. He won't take that punishment if and when he goes to another team. We don't have to bet on that, though. We can just bet on Saquon Barkley maintaining his value, because he is Saquon Barkley. You could say the same thing about Josh Jacobs to a lesser degree, because he's going to get a new deal as well.
Absolutely. All right, those are some guys we are buying in fantasy football. Do us a huge favor and drop a like on this video. And also make sure you're subscribed if you play Dynasty, because we're going to have Dynasty content for you literally from now until the end of next summer. Dynasty season starting back up again. It's going to be time to get into rookies here very, very soon. So make sure you're subscribed. FlockFantasy.com/domain is where all of our exclusive content is. If you want a team blueprint for your Dynasty team, FlockFantasy.com/domain. If you choose the Mother Flocker tier, we'll give you a team blueprint. It's going to give you a great idea on how to go about rebuilding or adding to your contending team, which direction you should be taking your team. It'll give you a lot of clarity. So like I said, FlockFantasy.com/domain. Use code domain to unlock the blueprint. Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you later.